Markets are open. We're live across the globe and welcome to the money news that matters. I'm Susannah and this is Talking Business. Let's take a look at the headlines. Our top story, the UK offers the EU more money in a bid to kickstart trade talks. So is the divorce bill now a done deal? $60 billion, that's what the UK is prepared to pay its EU neighbours to get trade talks underway. But is it a price worth paying just to begin the conversation? We're going to be joined by our economics editor, Kamal Ahmed, to chew over all of the facts and figures. And Apple's rotten security. The tech giant is rushing to fix a major password bug in its PC operating system. And as always, we've got all the very latest from the financial markets around the world. And getting off autopilot. Why too many of us are turning up at work but not tuning in. We hear from one expert who says he can change all of that. That's all to come on this edition of Talking Business. Good morning, America. Good evening, Asia. Hello, world. The UK has offered a larger potential divorce bill to the European Union. The bill is essentially a list of previous commitments that the EU insists the UK still must pay, even if it leaves the Union. The BBC understands that the UK government has agreed to fund a range of these obligations at an estimated cost of up to $60 billion. That figure is likely to include payments for agricultural and economic development policies, as well as long-term issues like pensions for EU staff. The final bill will almost certainly have to be paid over many years and is one of the main areas of a contention of preventing talks from moving on to a post-Brexit trade deal before the UK leaves in April 2019. Well, let's get rid of the cube now. There's been a lot of discussion about this Brexit bill. Is it too large? How will it be paid for? Will it actually be the final sum? Well, to talk about this is our economic editor, Kamal Ahmed. Hello there, Kamal. Is this going to be the final sum? Do we know it will be up to $60 billion? Will we ever know?
I think what's really interesting about this, it's actually a formula, not an amount. What the European Union wanted was to set out how they would judge what our liabilities are for things like agriculture, for our budget contributions into the future, for those long-term infrastructure projects that we had promised to support, for pensions rights for European Union bureaucrats into the future. So the EU wanted a formula and it wanted Britain to agree to that. And that appears to be where there's been progress. Now, you can make a judgment on what that amount might be. I don't think, though, we will ever know what the full amount is because it will be paid over years. And each year, the formula will be totted through and a number will come out of the end and Britain will pay that number. And so over a number of years, could be decades, we will be paying an amount to the European Union. I think what is important, though, to remember, the amount will be less than the amount Britain presently pays to the European Union, about $13 billion a year, because those were our net contributions to the European Union whilst we were members. So leaving will still be a net saving in those terms for the UK.
Everybody was saying that we are coming up to crunch time for the trade talks. Do you think agreeing this formula will essentially give the green light for these trade talks to now take place?
I'm not sure. So there were three big issues that the European Union put on the table that had to be agreed before Britain could move towards these free trade negotiations for post-Brexit. They were the rights of European Union citizens in Britain and British people in Europe, the rest of the European Union. There was the divorce bill, progress today, and there's also Ireland. Britain's only land border with the European Union. On the Irish border question, there are still huge unknowns. How will Britain have a relationship on a border with a member of the European Union when we're not in a single market and a customs union? That's been the big issue. There still seems to be quite a long way to go on that issue.
Yes, because the problem is many in the UK government are saying, look, we can't sort out the Irish border until we sort out any kind of trade deal, because it's going to be about goods going backwards and forwards across that border.
Absolutely, this horrible word, sequencing. So the British want the Irish border issue to be put into the negotiations over time. The European Union want it sorted initially. Britain says that's impossible. I'm sure there will be some compromise. It is certainly better news today about moving on to the next stage of talks than we thought it was, let's say, 2 days ago.
OK, Kamal Ahmed, thank you very much. The BBC's economics editor there, talking about perhaps those baby steps which have been taken by agreeing that formula on the UK's divorce bill from the European Union. OK, the world's most powerful central banker, Janet Yellen, will today give her thoughts on the state of the global economy in what's expected to be her last appearance before lawmakers. So, will we get any more clarity on an expected rate rise in a couple of weeks? Well, our New York business correspondent Samira Hussain joins us now from the New York Stock Exchange. Hello there, Samira. So, what is she expected to say?
We've already gotten a sneak peek of her prepared testimony, so we have an idea of what she's going to talk about. And really, she's going to be emphasizing this real strength of the U.S. economy. And that really signals not only are we probably going to be seeing a rate rise in a couple of weeks in December when the Federal Reserve Board next meets, but it's possible that we're going to see more rate rises in the coming year. Of course, inflation has always been a concern, but in her prepared statement, Janet Yellen did say that she expects that this is really a temporary issue. I do want to take one moment to just sort of say that, look, given that this is her last appearance in front of congressional leaders, I think we're going to see a lot of people trying to ask her questions in a way that offers her an opportunity to be a little bit more candid. So we can definitely hear her, being asked questions about tax reform, about what's happening at the CFPB, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, and of course the overall direction of the U.S. economy, given the politics that are at play these days. OK, Samira in New York, many thanks. We will, of course, follow that speech when it comes up. On to some other news now, and the London Stock Exchange's chief executive, Xavier Rolet, has stepped down. It follows speculation that Monsieur Rolet, who's been in the top job for 9 years, is being forced out as the boss of the London Exchange over a top-level governance row, the LSE said. Chairman Donald Brydon is also leaving. Fresh trade tensions between the US and China. The US Commerce Department has launched an investigation into Chinese aluminium sheet imports. The first time in decades that an anti-dumping probe has been initiated without a request from an aggrieved company. And virtual currency Bitcoin has soared to an all-time high above $10,000. On major exchanges today. The cryptocurrency has increased more than tenfold in value so far this year, prompting skeptics to warn that Bitcoin really is now a very speculative bubble. OK, let's take a look at how the financial markets are doing so far. The FTSE 100, stuffed, of course, full of international companies, is lower after a boost for sterling following that news of a possible breakthrough in the Brexit divorce bill. Let's have a look at the DAX in Frankfurt. Up so far today, just under 1% there. The All Ordinaries in Australia, also in positive territory following the trend. And a barrel of Brent crude is currently trading at this price, down very slightly at 0.16. So let's get rid of the cube now. We'll check in with the US markets a little bit later in the programme. Yesterday, the exchanges really did hit a record high. That's the S&P, the Dow and the tech-heavy NASDAQ. We're going to stay with tech because Apple has said it's working to fix a serious bug within its Mac operating system. The flaw in macOS High Sierra, the most recent version of the system, makes it possible to gain entry to the machine without a password and also have access to powerful administrator rights. Well, with me is our technology correspondent, Rory Catherine-Jones. Hello there, Rory. Who discovered this?
Well, it's interesting. A Turkish security researcher tweeted to Apple about this, saying, I've spotted this. You just type the word root and then you press return a couple of times and you're in. And isn't this a bit wrong? And the internet went mad. Then people started looking back. November the 13th, on a developer forum, a support forum for Apple, somebody had spotted this, as a sort of workaround. They were trying to advise somebody about a different problem that they had with the latest operating system and say, oh, why don't you try this? And various people did. I just seen a reply to that original blog post there. Somebody saying, oh my God, that should not work, but it does. This is really, really bad. And that kind of sums it up. This is
do you not
really,
think
really
Apple
bad.
is monitoring any of these forums to find out what the chat is about? Or do you think they knew about this earlier than they've said? Because they've said, we've only just been alerted.
Well, I think so, nobody quite realised how significant this was until somebody sort of demonstrated it. There's been immediately a rash of videos of people saying, this is what you do, and you're in. It is obviously a really serious flaw. What's embarrassing for Apple is that over the years, it's PCs which have been the target for most hackers, for most viruses, for most cybersecurity problems. Apple has always prided itself on being more secure, and that's partly because people haven't really targeted it. This isn't, something that has been inserted by criminals. This is something, just a basic flaw in their operating system. Obviously, they should have found out about it earlier. They're rushing to fix it. It will soon be fixed, but embarrassing in the short term. In
that short term, before they rush out some kind of patch and fix or a new update, essentially, for the operating system, what should people do? Well,
I mean, the advice is, obviously don't leave your computer around unlocked. It is only dangerous.
People are lazy. They do that, don't they? They're on autopilot.
It's only dangerous if somebody actually gets their hands on your computer. It's not, nobody's going to remotely hack in. But there are. Apple has posted some advice about a workaround to make it more secure, and that update should be coming soon. And obviously, the advice is to take the update.
Yeah, thanks for that update, Rory. Many thanks. OK, it's time now to take a quick look at what's trending online in the business world. Donald Trump's been tweeting about the markets. He said, looks like another great day for the stock market. Consumer confidence is at a record high. I guess somebody likes me. My policies. Also, the Wall Street Journal reports that DHL has pre-ordered 10 of Tesla's newly announced semi-trucks, joining a growing list of large transportation companies looking to test the all-electric vehicles. And finally, Business Insider says that in 2010, a developer bought 2 pizzas using 10,000 units of the then little-known digital currency called Bitcoin. Today, the price of a single Bitcoin has hit $10,000, making 10,000 of them worth a staggering $100 million. And it seems that hundreds of thousands of people have bought Bitcoin, perhaps the first time, just in the last few days. There certainly is perhaps a bubble emerging. We'll have to see. We'll report more. Anyway, coming up, getting your head in the game. This man is going to show us how we can shake off that feeling of autopilot in the office. Stay tuned to find out just how after the break.